All right, this is a rather strange account. In the moment, I was certainly unnerved, but for a while, I wondered if I was simply overreacting. This happened almost 2 years ago. I had an interview for a job in another state, roughly a 5-hour drive away. Rather than making the long drive home immediately after the interview, my then-girlfriend suggested I find an Airbnb for the night. I'm admittedly terrible with such apps and clueless about finding a suitable place. She downloaded the app for me, located a seemingly nice spot, and it was conveniently only a 10-minute drive from the interview location. I booked it and prepared myself for the interview. The homeowner was incredibly accommodating. I had messaged him about the purpose of my visit, and he graciously offered that I could check into the house early that day. This allowed me to get ready and mentally prepare for the interview, instead of going straight into it after a 5-hour drive. I thought that was a really thoughtful gesture. The owner sent me the access code and detailed instructions on how to lock the door. It's essentially just one button, but it was helpful to know, as I hadn't used a keypad lock before. My interview was at 3 p.m., so I had ample time to shower and get myself mentally focused. When I plugged the interview address into my GPS, it indicated a 9-minute drive, so I planned to leave at least 30 minutes early, just in case of getting lost or hitting traffic. After the interview, I grabbed some tacos and returned to the house. I felt the interview went well, though naturally. I spent the next few hours second-guessing every answer I gave, a habit of mine when I'm nervous. That evening, I didn't do much besides eat, chat with my girlfriend on the phone, and watch a movie. I know all these places are thoroughly cleaned, but I still find it odd to sleep in someone else's bed. I'm just peculiar that way. It's partly why I don't travel or vacation extensively. I intended to sleep on the couch and depart first thing in the morning. The living room was very cozy. It boasted a large, fluffy, wraparound couch positioned in front of a fireplace, with a huge TV above it. To sweeten the deal, the room also featured surround sound. I was perfectly content to spend the entire night in this room, watching movies until I drifted off to sleep. Around 11 p.m. that night, I retrieved a blanket from one of the beds and put on Avengers: Endgame. I was only about 15 minutes into the movie when I started to doze off. That sleep didn't last long, as I was abruptly woken by the sound of the doorbell. I lay there for a few minutes, looking around, unsure if I was dreaming or if it was part of the movie. Then, a few seconds later, the doorbell chimed again. I couldn't believe it. The doorbell was actually ringing. I grabbed my phone and saw the time was 11:33 p.m. I couldn't fathom who would be ringing the doorbell at such an hour. My initial thought was to simply ignore it. Then the bell rang again. Each chime made my heart pound against my ribs. On the fourth ring, I decided I had to investigate. What if it was the police or something? I cautiously made my way to the door and, before opening it, peered through the front windows, which offered a partial view of the person outside. It was a skinny guy holding a small brown paper bag. His head was down, and he seemed almost unresponsive. I approached the door and opened it, but left the screen door shut and locked. The light was dim, preventing me from getting a clear look at him. With his head still down, he mumbled that he had my pizza delivery. Clearly, he wasn't holding a pizza. It was a brown paper bag. I politely informed him I hadn't ordered a pizza and that he had the wrong address. I closed the door and started back toward the living room. The doorbell rang again. I marched back to the front door and opened it. Before I could yell, "Go away," or anything, he just repeated in a bleak, monotone voice that he had my pizza. When I shouted, "I didn't order a pizza," the guy responded by stating the house's address and insisting the delivery was for this location. I began to shout that it was a mistake, that I hadn't ordered pizza. As I was yelling, I noticed the guy reaching for the screen door handle. I know I should have been more freaked out, but I was simply annoyed. I slammed the door after yelling at him to leave before I called the police. After slamming the door, I snuck back to the front window and again crouched down to observe what he was doing. He stood there for another minute, then walked away. He had a beat-up red sedan of some kind. I couldn't make out the make. One of the front headlights was busted. Once I saw him get into the car, I felt a moment of relief. After that ordeal, I was ironically hungry. I grabbed something from the kitchen, and as I walked back to the living room, I noticed light still shining through the front windows. When I looked outside, the guy was still sitting in the driveway, with his one high beam shining through the window. I decided to go upstairs and look out one of the bedroom windows, as I would have a much better vantage point. Because the light was so bright, I couldn't see him sitting in the car, but I could see that the car was running. I was still more annoyed than anything else. My two options were either to call the police or go outside and tell this guy to hit the road. I decided I didn't want to bother the police with something that could be minor and ultimately nothing. So instead, I'd just go outside and scare the guy into leaving. I threw on my shoes and marched out there as if I were an Avenger. When I reached the car window, nobody was there. Without thinking, I spun around and ran back to the house, immediately locking the door. I even locked the chain on top of the door. I tried to figure out why he wouldn't be in the car if it was still running. It made no sense. I grabbed my phone and went upstairs to the bedroom. I tried texting the homeowner, but I didn't receive an immediate reply. I continued to look out the window for several minutes. I considered calling the police, but I kept telling myself this wasn't police-worthy and I was overreacting. A few minutes later, I looked out the window and saw the skinny man get back into his car. It almost looked like he was coming from the direction of the front door. I watched him finally back out of the driveway, and he appeared to drive down the street and out of sight. I wasn't scared, but I was so on edge that I didn't really sleep. I spent the entire night watching YouTube videos while lying on the bedroom floor. At 4:00 a.m., I decided to officially get up, shower, and then leave. As I was gathering my belongings and preparing to walk out the door, I noticed something horrifying. The front door was unlocked and ajar. Because the chain was locked, it wouldn't open any further. I stood there in amazement. I couldn't remember if I had perhaps left it unlocked by accident after the last incident. I was sure I had locked it, but I didn't want to contemplate the potential alternative. Then it dawned on me that I definitely didn't lock the screen door when I ran inside. As the sun was rising, I made a dash for my car, just in case. And as I was backing out of the driveway, I noticed the brown paper bag on the side of the front porch. I had run outside so fast earlier that I hadn't even noticed it initially. I thought about checking if anything was inside, but that was a question I didn't want answered in that moment. I drove away, and at the end of the street was a disgusting green house. In its driveway was an ugly red car with what looked like a broken headlight. It might be a coincidence, but it looked exactly like the car that had sat in my driveway the previous night. The Airbnb owner messaged me that morning to apologize for missing my message last night and asked how my stay was. I recounted the story. The delivery driver, the car in the driveway, the unlocked door in the morning, and the similar-looking red car at the end of the street. He started typing. I could see the dots in the message, and then he never responded after that. I never bothered to investigate the situation further until I started telling people the story. When I looked up the house more recently, it's no longer listed on Airbnb, so I don't know what to think. It was unnerving and a little freaky, for sure, but I truly wasn't that scared at the time. I'm more scared now when I reflect on it, because other people seem to think it was almost some kind of setup. I'm curious to see what people think, if it all could have been just a crazy string of coincidences, or or if I was almost a victim of something sinister. In moments of fear, uncertainty, or danger, reciting Ayatul Kursi acts as a powerful shield. It reminds us that Allah is the ultimate protector over all things. Recite it after every prayer, before sleeping, and when leaving home. No harm can touch you when Allah's protection surrounds you.